frequency that is. But anyway, here we are back boiling crawfish. So, okay, I just talked about doing the vegetables separate. Okay, John, you caught these when Tuesday? Okay. Here at the station, in years past, we've actually done some research on purging crawfish, holding crawfish to let them clean out their gut. It cleans up, they don't have that black vein in there. And it actually takes, how long?
Purging 22 hours.
All right. So to get a true purge crawfish, it takes at least 24 hours. Okay. You can't put salt into some wash water and in 10 minutes have them purged. That really doesn't work. So, okay, let's get the basket out. And these crawfish, if you're going to get crawfish, early one Saturday morning and you're not going to cook them till later in the afternoon, take them home, put them in a shade, and put a sack or even some towels or something on it. Keep them cool. Don't let the wind and sun get on them. But these have already been cleaned, so he's going to put them right into the basket. If you get a sack, if you buy a sack from a farmer or from one of the dealers, you do have to wash them. So dump those. Season's getting to me. Dump those crawfish in a tote, and that will kind of wash off some of the stuff. You can pull out the bits and pieces of grass that might be in there, but do not put salt. Let's see. A lot of people dump some salt in that wash water, and it really doesn't do anything except stress out the crawfish. It does not purge the inside. Okay, so putting salt in that wash water, all you're going to do is wind up killing the grass when you dump out the ice chest with all that salt water. So don't use salt. Oops, excuse me, John. Okay, as far as seasoning. Okay, you start time? Good. All right, so I put a little bit of the liquid crab oil in with the crawfish. I like to use just a little bit of this. This will add some seasoning to it. We're going to actually season with some of the dry seasoning. Once they're cooked, we'll dump them into ice chest, sprinkle them with the seasoning, and kind of let that sit for a few minutes. And a lot of places, if you get drive-through crawfish, they do that. So we already added that. Every now and then we start choking up. That's because the wind is blowing right at us and blowing the season to us. Okay, so let me turn it over to John. John, explain the whole purging. And, well, let's back up. You caught your crawfish, and then what did you do from there?
I caught the crawfish Tuesday, put them in the vat, I guess, about 8 o'clock, and then put them in the purge vat. Our purge vat are just big holding half moon. They're about a foot wide, 3 foot circle, a half circle, with some fine mesh in there with 2 air stones underneath it. We have an overflow. We try to set the water to where it's one complete flushing of well water through the system to flush out in a 24-hour period. But the baskets have little holes in it to where all the crawfish, when they start rubbing on one another or doing their business, it actually falls to the very bottom to where the crawfish can't get back in it and eat it. Because if they could get back and eat it, then you end up with a crawfish with another dark vein instead of a clean vein. And then I sacked them out about 22 hours later, put them in a cooler, wet burlap, put them in there, and pulled them out this morning and covered them and ready to cook.
So let's see. So crawfish are in there. They're cooking. Let's talk a little bit about preparing for a crawfish boil. I guess I'm assuming everybody that is watching this already knows how to boil crawfish, but we might have a few people elsewhere. Hopefully a friend of mine, Fred, over in Australia is watching this too. So to do a crawfish boil, you burn them. Make sure you have plenty of gas in your tank. You don't want to run out of gas right in the middle of boiling. Get all your seasonings that you're going to need, all your trays and stuff. So we have all that on these tables here. And let's see what else we got. So we talked about washing the crawfish, getting the water boiled, timing. Okay. Evelyn, let's talk a little bit about time of crawfish. Why do we have to cook them for so long, or tell us what's happening in that boiling pot?
So when you're cooking the crawfish, the main issue is safety, that you kill all the pathogens that can make you sick, but also quality. So the importance of cooking it for a long time is to inactivate those enzymes in the fat that are going to digest the meat if you're going to store it over time, but also is the pathogen. So one thing is the time that you're going to cook it. Some people cook it for 4 minutes, 5 minutes. Other people cook it for 7 minutes. But the main thing is that we measure the internal temperature. So once we are getting closer, I'm going to show you how to measure the temperature. You can use different types of thermometers. You can get really fancy with Bluetooth, Wi-Fi thermometers, or just use a regular. Just make sure that it's accurate. So we're going to measure that temperature. There are different recommendations on temperatures that you can achieve if you're talking about a product that is going to be immediately consumed. You want to make sure that it reaches 145. If you like processors that they are processing a product that is going to be stored over time, then you have to cook it at 185, instant kill of the pathogens.
Okay, what happens if you cook it too long?
Well, then your meat is gonna get really tough. It's gonna be harder to peel, so the quality is not gonna be good.
Let's see. I did a little search on the internet, and I found boiling crawfish for 2 minutes, which is probably just barely getting up to temperature. I've seen a couple of references of 15 minutes boiling, and then you let them sit for another 30 minutes. So that's going to be like rubber so that's not good. So, but usually somewhere about 4, 5, 6 minutes is enough to get the internal temperature of that crawfish up to 180 or 185. 185, and that's going to take care of the enzyme and also the pathogens, any bacteria that might be in there that could hurt you. Okay, so that's our process. Let's see, where are we now? Okay, so we're timing. You got the timer going? Okay, and you want a time when it starts to come back to a boil, right? Okay, so is it coming back to a boil yet? Okay. All right, while we're waiting on that, let's talk a little bit about harvesting crawfish. Okay, we're going to put something up about showing John emptying some traps. Okay, so Louisiana has about 250,000 acres, so 250,000 acres of crawfish production around the state. Most of it is down here in southwest Louisiana. The biggest parishes producing crawfish is Acadia, Jeff Davis, Vermilion, Evangeline. This whole southwest rice producing area. Crawfish are grown in aquatic habitat. So a shallow water pond is a rice field. Okay, so you have 10, 12, 15 inches of water, and you can grow crawfish in those rice fields, or you can have just ponds dedicated strictly for crawfish. And here at the station, we're doing some experiments, growing some rice. And we actually have 2 ponds that John runs all the time. And one field, we harvested a crop of rice, and then the regrowth from that rice, the rest of the fall, that provides the food supply for crawfish on into the winter and spring. The second pond that we're running, we actually harvested a second crop of rice. Okay, so many rice farmers try to maximize their rice yields by planting rice in March. That first crop is ready to harvest in July. They can reflood that field, add some fertilizer, and harvest another second crop of rice sometime in October, early November. So our second pond, it has that second crop. So John, tell me a little bit about the traps that you have set up and how you run those and how often you do that.
I have it's 2 7-acre fields. It's split in half. I have 4 lanes down there in each side. 25 traps a lane, so
I'll meet you on the flip flop.
Each side, 200 total.
Yep.
That's good. Usually on Fridays I drop since we work Monday through Friday, so Fridays I drop a piece of artificial bait in the trap to leave it over the weekend. That Monday I'll run it, and with these cool temperatures, I end up going to use Purging. I put Purging out there, and I run a couple days like that, usually 24-hour sets, and depending on the catch, whether or not I'll run it or I'll go to a 48-hour set. It all depends on the catch, whether it's worth doing. And I continue doing that past the cold temperature. We'll move on to running, 4 or 5 days a week if it's able and it's feasible. So.
Okay, so John brought me one of his traps here. Some of y'all that are not familiar with it, these are pyramid traps. We run about 15 to 20 traps per acre, and these are spread out more or less evenly around the pond. And let's see, John, hold that for me. And they're baited either with, here, hold that. Okay, this is a Purging fish. It's a saltwater type of shad, and crawfish farmers will actually chop this in about 3 pieces and put a little piece of fish in there. The fish works good in cold water. So, for the last couple of months, we've had real cold water in the ponds. Once it warms up in the spring, this artificial bait that he's got, okay, that works good in water temperatures about 70, 75 degrees or higher. It's as good or better than the fish. But in cold water during the wintertime, that little piece of actual fish, the Purging, will catch more crawfish. It just has a stronger attractant to it. The crawfish can smell it. So that's how we catch the crawfish.
This piece of Purging, I cut my own fish. I cut this piece probably about in 3 pieces. Right now, my catch out there in the fields, I still have plenty of bait left over. I know a lot of people turn around, they like to get their fish already cut. That's a lot of waste. If your guys in the field could turn around and tell you, hey, look, they're eating it all, then you can cut it a little bigger. But that's a lot of money to be spending to turn around and just throw it back in the field and it not be eaten. So at least right now, it's about 3 pieces I cut out of this piece here. And if they start eating more than that, then I'll cut it to a bigger piece. I just hate for people to lose money that way. So anyway.
Yeah, and that's one thing I notice and travel around and look at different ponds. Bait is a very expensive part of this operation. The fish, the Purging fish, runs somewhere around 57 to 60 cents a pound. The artificial bait runs about, let's see, what was it? 18, 30, around 40 cents a pound. Okay, so it's a big difference in bait cost. Also, the amount of bait you use, you don't want to use a whole pound in a trap. About 1/3 of a pound is what works good. Okay, we're getting ready to do a little something here. Okay, and we have a question about what? Oh, okay, yeah, the artificial bait is roughly about 38 to 40 cents a pound. And again, it only takes about 1/3 of a pound to sit in the trap and actually attract those crawfish. So, all right, so in back of me here, Evelyn is actually going to test the temperature. She's going to stick a thermometer in there and let it read out. And what are you getting?
180. Yeah, actually, we are at temperature. It's over 180.
All right, John, turn off the gas. And I'll tell you what, Evelyn, let's push the table out the way. We're going to show John dumping all these crawfish into the. We have a ice chest that it's been cleaned and sanitized, and we'll talk about clean and sanitized in just a minute. But it's clean, sanitized, and as he dumps the cooked crawfish in here, I'm gonna use some dry seasoning, sprinkle on the crawfish. Now, one thing I usually have to do is take off my glasses because they fog up as we're doing this. You ready, John? Okay, those look very good. Okay, so the season's going in. We're going to cover that. And along with the crawfish, we put a little bit of cut sausage, some smoked sausage. And John's going to also squeeze a little bit of lemon juice on top of them. And we're going to let that sit for just a little bit. And again, the idea is to not overcook your crawfish. You don't want them to be real tough. Shake it up. That'll let that seasoning get into them. And, you know, the dry seasoning, you know, whatever brand you use, it does have some salt in it. So, again, that's why you don't have to add a lot of salt to the water. Okay. We had a question about purging. Okay, okay, explain. Okay, you talked about yours. Explain some other purging systems. Okay.
The picture that they got on the screen, turn around, it just, the big holding, I could put about 40 pounds of crawfish to one of them containers. I have 12 of them. There's 6. It's divided in 2 bays. They got 2 air stones underneath it. There's constantly air blowing underneath it. The water going in, turning around is set to where it's about one complete flushing in 24 hours. In other words, if I started 24 hours later, it would just start draining out. You don't need a whole lot of water trickling through there. You just need it to, if the ammonia levels, crawfish start dying, that it kind of dilutes it to where it doesn't kill your crawfish. The baskets turn around, have a bunch of little holes in it, but it's completely sealed. And you put your crawfish in there, and like I said, they crawl on one another. They do their business. Mud, dirt, grime, anything on them, it ends up going and falling to the bottom through them little holes. If it'd be a solid container underneath it, they would end up holding all the feces and dirt and grime, and them crawfish would start eating that. And that's not making you a purged crawfish. You get a purged crawfish by cleaning that vein and them not being able to get anything to eat. You will have some mortality in there periodically throughout the season. So not that every vein is going to be 100% clean whenever you get purged crawfish, but it's a lot more pleasant to look at and cleaner for you to be able to consumer. We had it made at a local company here. Specialized in it. You go to any welding shop, you know, they probably can fabricate one for you. They got different ones, different sizes. It's really hard to sit there and specify somebody making them. I mean, normally it's a welding company that does it, that usually does the crawfish bowling rigs and things like that. That they would know if you'd go and ask them what they have, and if not, you need more specs or whatever, you could probably find them elsewhere, or we can get some information to you if you would get in touch in an email or something. She said she'll put up an email if y'all have any more specification or more pictures. I can get them and send it to her, and she'll reply and send them back to y'all. So, well, dry seasoning, we do the dry seasoning for my family and all that. It goes along. A lot of people like to put all their seasoning in there at once, and whenever you put all your seasoning in there at once, with my family, they can't take much seasoning. So we do it this way, sprinkle on the outside. Each person has their preference of how they want their season their product. Just for us, that's what we do. You just put it on there, not a lot to where you don't want them over seasoned and choking and hotness. We like to enjoy them, not sit there burn your palate. So we turned around before we did. It was some crawfish boil liquid that we put in there, and like I said, this was a full bottle, and we put majority of it in the big pot, and actually it's 3/4 to a little over half full. So it's just a matter of, you know, you're tasting. Just with this here, you watch the video from the beginning, every once in a while we would get a little wind blow it to us, and we were it's letting us know it was in there. So
let's see. There's also some other commercial purging operations around the state that I've seen, and they'll actually use some shallow trays that maybe 3 foot wide or 4 foot wide and 8 feet long, and have water spraying over the crawfish. Again, it's going to take about 24 hours or more to let those crawfish completely clean out their gut and get perfectly clean. But so there are a few operations around that do purge. A few restaurants have their own purging systems. So if you look, you probably can find some restaurants that serve purged crawfish or even buy some. But okay, yeah, the purge study that was done, Dr. Ray McLean a few years ago, he's retired now. Ray and John did that project, and they put the crawfish in this purging tank, with the aerated water. And it's okay, so it's in the comment section that Anna's putting up. Okay, so did you get the picture that had the two crawfish? Okay, one, you can see the very definite black line coming down, and then the other one is purged. It's cleaned out. So the other thing is, when you cook them, every crawfish doesn't have to be purged. Okay, I don't buy purged crawfish for myself. I cook them to where they're just cooked. They reach that 185 temperature, and then I take them out and put them in a tote like that with some season sprinkle. But when they're cooked just right, as you pull off the head and then you pinch the tail to get the rest of the shell off, a lot of times that vein will come out with the tail, and it's already gone from the meat. If that little line stays in there, you just lift up what I call the backstrap part of the meat, and you can just